Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hi. I've made this very short video about our 5-year journey with potty training our son who has autism, and I hope you will find it helpful. So when he turned 2 years old, I decided to start him potty training. So I bought those traditional potties and sat him on it once or twice a day. Every time that I was doing that, he was crying, having meltdowns and screaming. So within a week, I knew that he was not ready. So I stopped, and then I waited until he turned 3 years of age, and then I started again. And so within the same a week or two, I realized once again that every time I sit him on the potty once or twice a day, he was still crying and having meltdowns and screaming and wanting a nappy. So it was very clear to me that he was not ready for potty training. And at the time, what I didn't realize was that my son was on the spectrum. I had no idea. I knew something wasn't right. He wasn't talking. There was no communication. He was having so many meltdowns, screaming and crying. I didn't understand any of it. I just knew that he wasn't ready. I wasn't going to get through to him. So then I stopped. Prior to starting nursery at the age of 4, the speech and language therapy team did a referral to a pediatrician because they could see traits of autism in our son. And so therefore he required assessment and diagnosis by a pediatrician, which took a further 2 years. But before starting nursery, the teacher invited us for a one-to-one meeting. And that's when he could see very clearly traits of autism in our son because he's very familiar with it with other children. And so at that point, I felt very comfortable to say that my son would be attending nursery wearing a pull-up. Now that was appropriate and it was accepted because he was only going to nursery for 3 hours a day. So we signed further documentation to say that staff could change our son and there would always be 2 members of staff present. During the half-term holidays, I would take him and sit him on the toilet. He wouldn't really do anything, if I'm honest. I mean, sometimes he had a few accidents and misses and stuff, and that's totally fine, no problem, happy to clean it up. That's how children learn, through having accidents and making a mess, no problem. But the purpose of me taking him during those half-term holidays was 2 things. Him being very comfortable sitting on the toilet. Now, it was no longer a potty. Him becoming familiar with the bathroom and what happens in the bathroom. That's where you go to have a shower. That's where you go to use the toilet. That's where you wash your hands. And trying to get him familiar with what happens and the routine in the bathroom. So we were still struggling. It took a very long time, but there was less and less crying now. There was less and less meltdowns now because he was now getting familiar with sitting on the toilet. There was no pressure on him to do anything. I just wanted him to feel comfortable, and that was all. So during the half-term holidays, that is when I would take him and sit him on the toilet a few times a week. During term time, I wouldn't take him as often, maybe like once or twice a day, if that, to be honest, because I could see that he wasn't ready and that he just needed to have a pull up. So it was only really during the half-term holidays from school, because that's when I had time off work to really try and give him that time that he needed. At the age of 5, he started school full time. So I no longer felt comfortable sending him to school with a pull-up on, as he was going to be in school now for about 7 to 8 hours a day. So he would wear just normal underwear. And the school had a spare, I gave the school a bag of spare clothes for him in case he had any accidents in school. He'd come home and then I would sit him on the toilet, again, getting comfortable with the bathroom, sitting on the toilet and stuff. And I thought to myself, well, you've been holding it in for 8 hours. Surely you need to go, because I know that you've not gone in school. However, he was not relieving himself. So then I would change him into his normal home clothes, but I would refuse to put a pull-up on him because I needed him to get out of the habit of using a pull-up. I knew he needed to go. So either he was going to go by himself, or he was going to tell me he needs to go, or he would make a mess. However, what happened was he was not doing any of that. He was just holding it in for a further 2-3 hours until I put that pull-up on him. And then he would relieve himself and it would burst. His pull-ups would just overflow. So then I rang his pediatrician and I said, listen, he started school full time now. I don't know what to do. He's holding it in for like 10 plus hours a day. And she told me, you've got to stop. She said, you are going to give him a UTI if you do not stop this. As soon as he comes home, put a pull-up on him straight away so that he can relieve himself. Otherwise, you are risking UTI, a urinary tract infection, because he's been holding it in for so long. So I took her advice. I completely stopped, him coming home and me refusing to put a pull-up on him. I just stopped that. I put a pull-up on him straight away because he needed to relieve himself. I didn't want my son to get a UTI. And the pediatrician said to me, it's very clear that he is not ready to use the toilet. His communication is still not there, which is fine, no problem. I took that advice on board. So he'd come home and straight away I would put a pull-up on him. But we were still doing the same thing around the half-term holidays. So again, during the half-term holidays, I was still taking him to sit on the toilet, get comfortable on the toilet, even though he was not doing anything. And then we were still using pull-ups throughout the whole academic year. At the age of 6, he started year 2 in primary school, and we were still being very consistent. So he would come home and we would put him on the toilet, sit down on the toilet. No problem if you don't do anything. It's absolutely fine. There's no pressure. And then get him up, get him changed and washed, and put him a pull-up on him. And then he'd relieve himself in the pull-up, and then I would change and clean him. And just let him go about his day. No problem at all. And throughout the week, I was doing this every day after school. But additionally, I would take him like an extra once or twice a day, because I'm teaching him that the bathroom is not a place that you only go once. You go a couple of times a day when you need to relieve yourself. And so he got used to that pattern. And he got comfortable. I didn't enjoy all the comments that I was getting from friends and family and all the judgment, people saying, why is he still in a pull-up? He's 6 years old and stuff. But people just don't understand how hard it is for a child with autism, with very limited communication. But I knew as a mother that I was doing my absolute best to help him, to be consistent. And I knew that one day he was going to get there. Again, while he was in year 2, we continued during the half-term holidays to put him on the toilet, going to the bathroom and stuff, even though he was not doing anything. We just wanted to be consistent. We wanted to make sure that he was being comfortable to go into the bathroom, sit on the toilet and stuff. So we were very consistent in doing that during the half-term holidays. So at the end of year 2, we have the long 6-week summer holidays. And during the summer holidays, I decided to take the very last week of summer holiday off. So I wanted to really focus and help him to toilet train before he goes into year 3 of primary school. So by that point in the summer holidays, he was around 7.5 years of age. And his dad was helping as well. His dad took him to our local park, and his dad needed to go to the toilets there. So obviously, he took our son with him. And that's when he saw his dad model how to use the toilet outdoors. And he asked his dad, I don't know how he asked his dad that he wanted to go to the toilet, because his communication is very limited. But anyway, his dad understood that he needed to go to the toilet. So he showed him what to do. And that was the very first time that our son relieved himself using a toilet, a public toilet. And so then he came home and we were like, okay, let's continue this, right? So his dad took him a couple of times throughout the day, throughout the week, and he was getting it. He was now using the toilet to relieve himself, which was amazing. He really got there. So he now started using the toilet. And it just goes to show that he really needed someone to model to him how to use the toilet. Now, you might say, well, why didn't his father show him earlier? His father did actually show him a couple of times throughout the years, but our son just wasn't ready at all. It took a lot of time for him to get comfortable to even go in the bathroom, for him to get comfortable to even sit on the toilet. We did a lot of other things as well, which I will go into later on. But finally, at age 7.5, he started using the toilet. He got there. He gets it now, you know? So it was a very proud moment for us. I can't tell you the joy that we felt. So here are some tips that I hope you will find helpful. The very first one has to be stop putting pressure on yourself. Stop putting pressure on your child with autism who might have very limited communication and just isn't ready. Stop comparing your child to other children and neurotypical children and children who come from families where they have siblings modeling how to use the toilet. You know, my son never had any of that. So I just put so much pressure on him and so much pressure on me. And stop listening to people and their judgments as well. You know, as a mother, you're going to do your absolute best to help your child. When I went on autism courses and when I was talking to other parents in the autism network, they all said the same thing to me. They said, just stop putting pressure. He is not ready. So I started to listen. However, I knew that it was very, very important to be consistent. So before I jump on to talk about being consistent, I just want to say that it is absolutely okay to watch videos, read articles, talk to mums and talk to friends and get advice. You might find it helpful. You might find helpful tips. I think I watched a video where they bought storybooks. So I bought storybooks for my son. And we read them a couple of times throughout every week, kind of. And sometimes what he would do is he would pick up that storybook and say, "Mummy, potty, potty." And I would be like, "Yeah, that's a potty, well done." And then he would just relieve himself and wet himself. So I realized that that's what he was doing. He was trying to tell me that he needs to go to the toilet by picking up the storybook and saying potty, you know? So you will find things that help. Like I tried the whole giving a treat, you know, but because he wasn't really using the toilet, the treat thing didn't really work for him. So yeah, try things. You don't know what's going to work for your child. And for me, the biggest thing was being consistent, like taking him to the toilet every day after school, putting no pressure on him to use it. That's fine. But as long as you're getting comfortable going to the toilet, sitting there, getting familiar with the bathroom. I think also it's really important to give them opportunity to wear normal underwear throughout the day. That's something that I did consistently from when he started school full time. So I didn't like him being in pull-ups all the time. It's not comfortable. So you'd have, you know, a good couple of hours throughout the day in a normal underwear, and then maybe a couple of hours in a pull-up, or just give him a pull-up when he needed it. You know, he'd come and say to me, "Nappy, nappy, mum," and that's fine. I would know to put a nappy on him. Even when he would say nappy, nappy, mum, I would sometimes take him and sit him on the toilet, see if he does anything, but he wouldn't. I just knew he was waiting for the nappy to go on, which was totally fine. And also, yeah, children find it really helpful if they can see their parents model to them how to use the toilet. So some people told me to do that, and that was fine. I did that. His father did that, but it doesn't mean that they're going to get it straight away. But they can see that by you going in the bathroom and using the bathroom is not a scary place. So we did that, and I just want to say that mess is absolutely okay. It's a good way for them to learn that, you know, it's an uncomfortable feeling to wet yourself and that you want to get changed straight away. And the way to avoid that is by going to the toilet, using the toilet. So I had no issues at all. Make a mess, I will clean it. That's how you learn. And being patient, I think there were times when I was not patient, but I think deep down, I knew it was going to happen because I just kept praying so hard, and I just had to trust a little bit more in God's timing. And you will get there. I promise you, you will get there. And all the time and effort you put in, your child will get there when they are ready. Just do your absolute best and be consistent. Don't put pressure on yourself. It'll be honestly one of the most wonderful moments when your child gets there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.